my Let's Walk Florida participants. My name is Samantha Kennedy, and I am the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent here in Wakulla County, Florida. And I am also part of our Eastern Panhandle Let's Walk Florida team. We are now entering week 5, so we are nearly halfway through our 10-week program, and I hope all of you are having success reaching your fitness goals and learning how to live healthier lives. So this week's lesson is going to be expanding a little bit on how to incorporate healthier choices into your daily meal plan. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So last week, Marie Eric in Liberty County talked to you about food labels and My Plate and how to use those items to help you make healthier choices. And so this week, I'm just going to expand on that a little bit by giving you tips on how to create a healthier meal plan. So in this lesson, you will learn about foods to include in a healthy meal plan, simple food preparation techniques for healthier meals, and then we'll also touch on the benefits of walking backwards. You may not have thought about this as a health benefit, but it has health benefits that you may not completely be aware of, and so we'll talk about that. And then I'll just review a few cardio, strength, and flexibility exercises, and the same exercises with modifications as well, so you can do them in different ways. So the focus on healthy foods is really what this is primarily about this week. And so when we learn how to eat healthy, we tend to focus on all the things we have to give up instead of focusing on the things that we can eat that are really delicious and nutritious. And so that's a part of the reason why we tend to fail when we try to change our eating habits, because we have comfort foods and other things that we like, and we feel like we can't eat any sweets, we can't eat anything that we used to like, and so trying to give up all those things can be really difficult. And I'm here to tell you that you don't actually have to give them up, and we'll talk about that later. But that's what makes it hard sometimes to improve our health. Our diet is because we feel like we have to give up all the things we like, and it's really hard for us to do that. So we always tell people to eat the rainbow, and what that just means is that eating a variety of fruits and vegetables is a healthy way to create a meal, because different colors of fruits and vegetables have different amounts of vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. So if we eat a rainbow of colors, we'll get a more balanced, healthy diet. One example is just adding vegetables to other things that you would normally eat. So I like to add a lot of vegetables to an omelet. Instead of just egg and cheese, there might be a little ham or something in there too, but also a lot of vegetables like peppers and mushrooms and onions and tomatoes, and adding all of those things will give you a health boost as well as a flavor boost and a color boost. So things like fresh, frozen, or canned, I get these questions a lot about which one's better. Honestly, they're all good choices. With very negligible differences, they all have the same amount of nutrition, vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. And canned and frozen are great options if the fresh is not in season. And even if the fresh is in season, try canned and frozen as well. They do store longer than fresh. And so if you would rather have those options, please feel free to try those instead. But they're all good choices. I will caution you though that you should check the labels, especially on canned fruits, because you want to make sure that if you're getting canned fruit, that you get the fruit that's in there in its own juice instead of syrup. Even light syrup will have added sugars that you don't really need. So if you get the fruit that's in their own juices, you don't have those added sugars, which can be an unhealthy choice. The same thing goes for fresh, frozen, or canned vegetables. They're all good choices. We try to recommend that you have at least 1 or 2 vegetables per meal. This will help increase your fruit and vegetable consumption and improve the overall health of the meal, because vegetables are generally low in fat, they can be low in sodium, and rich in other nutrients that we need. Grilling is always a good choice, and we're going to talk a little bit more about cooking techniques later. But grilling is always a low-fat choice of food preparation. You can also get frozen bags of vegetables that can be steamable in the microwave, and steaming is another healthy food preparation technique. If you're going to be buying canned vegetables, again, they have a lot of nutrition in them, but you also want to, again, look at the labels, because you want to choose the low sodium or no salt added canned varieties to help reduce sodium intake. Too much sodium intake can lead to high blood pressure and other cardiovascular diseases, and it puts you at higher risk for those. And so we want to help minimize our sodium intake. So look for the low sodium or no salt added labels. Calcium-rich foods are always good. We need calcium to keep our bones and teeth healthy and our body functioning properly. And while milk is a great source of calcium, it is not the only source of calcium. So things like low-fat yogurt is a good choice. So you get a lot of calcium and other nutrients without a lot of the fat. And you also want to read the label to get the kind without any added sugar. And if you have yogurt with fruit in it, then you get the added benefits of the fruit as well. And then you can also use this as a substitute for a more traditional dessert. And low-fat plain yogurt is also a great substitute for things like sour cream. So it's a lower fat substitute for sour cream. Dark leafy greens are also great sources of calcium, which a lot of times people are unaware of. And so if you don't like dairy or you don't want to eat that much dairy, you can certainly increase your calcium consumption by eating more dark leafy greens, which is also a great healthy choice anyway. So a new twist on an old favorite would be trying a different cooking method that's a little more healthy. So instead of frying and breading things like chicken cutlets, you can bake them or grill them. And so that's less fat and fewer calories. You can also replace some of the meat-based protein with beans and other legumes. So for instance, you can cut your meat portion maybe in half and replace some of that meat with dried beans. Or you can have a soy-based product like tofu instead. Tofu is very versatile. It takes on a lot of the flavors of the things that you add to it. And so you can use that as a meat substitute. Also things like nuts and peanut butter, those are good protein foods, eggs as well. ChooseMyPlate.gov has a lot of great healthy recipes and a lot of other terrific nutrition resources. So I encourage you to log on to that website and just check out all of the great resources they have. There's games for kids, there's a lot of fact sheets to help families make healthier choices, and a lot of great recipes as well. So speaking of favorites, there is a myth that says in order to eat healthy, you have to give up all of your favorite comfort foods. And I touched on this earlier, and that is completely wrong. And again, that is a reason why a lot of us have a hard time changing our diet, because we feel like we have to give up all the stuff we like. And trying to give up all that stuff we like can be really difficult. You can still eat all of your favorite comfort foods and snacks in a healthy diet, but you just need to balance them with healthier choices. So reading the label, as Marie taught you last week, is a great way to make healthier choices. Also, just reducing your portion size is a great way to cut back on calories. So we are used to having large portions of everything when we go out to eat. We want our plate filled up. We want to get value for our dollar. And so we want to eat, we want to feel like we're getting value. But the serving sizes and the portion are not the same as portion sizes, and we need to really cut back on our portions. So if you're cooking at home, you might want to use a smaller plate to serve meals on. So you can almost trick your brain into feeling like you're getting more food because the plate still is full, it's just a smaller plate. So that's just one example. If you go out to eat, what I always do is I cut my portion in half and take half of it home, and then I can get 2 meals out of one price. And so you can eat half of it now and then save another half for later. So cutting back on portion sizes is a great way to cut back on calories as well. So a few healthy food prep techniques. How you cook your food is just as important as what you're eating. So here are a few tips. Seasoning veggies with a bit of lemon juice or herbs instead of salt or butter. I didn't put salt here, but Reducing salt and butter can help reduce sodium intake and reduce the number of calories and fat, and also give you a little bit of a flavor profile difference, which you might actually enjoy. Drain the fat from brown meat before serving will help cut back on fat. Use things like wine, tomato juice, or defatted chicken broth to base meats instead of the meat's actual juices, because the juices are basically melted fat from the meat. And so if you use these kinds of products that are low fat or no fat to baste your meat, you're going to cut back on the total fat intake and the number of calories. Use a non-stick pan so there's less fat that is needed. So less oil and butter is needed to keep food from sticking to the pan. Steaming, broiling, baking, grilling, roasting, and boiling are healthier choices than frying because they incorporate less fat or use no fat at all. Frying, even stir frying, which is a pretty healthy way to cook food, uses a little bit of oil, so that's a better choice than, say, deep fat frying, where you actually submerge food all the way down into the oil. So that would not be a healthy cooking technique, but the ones listed here are pretty healthy, and they use less fat, which would result in less fat in the final product and fewer calories. Microwave veggies in a little bit of water instead of butter or oil. So you basically will be steaming your vegetables, which is a healthy cooking method. Cook veggies without added meat or fat. Thanksgiving Day, we always have a big pot of green beans and we put bacon and a lot of butter in it, and it's delicious. But that is pretty much reserved for holiday gatherings. When we eat it that way, it's kind of a special treat for us on the holidays. Whereas when we're usually eating green beans, we will either grill them or roast them or steam them or boil them without all the excess butter and meat. And then removing the skin from poultry and trimming the fat from the meat is definitely going to cut back on the total fat of the final product and reduce the number of calories. Now, a little bit about walking backwards. Walking backwards uses muscles that you don't normally use, but they're still very important. And it also can help improve coordination and sharpen your ability to focus by challenging the senses. We're not used to walking backwards, and so we really would have to focus a lot in order to make sure that we don't trip over our own feet and things like that. So it really improves focus and challenges our senses by walking backwards. And it's also a great way to practice balance, especially for people who struggle with anterior knee pain. And what that means is front and center of the knee. If you have pain there under the kneecap or the patella, walking backwards can help reduce and alleviate some of that knee pain. It is safest to practice walking backwards on a treadmill. You can practice walking backwards outside if you would like to. However, it would require a nice clear pathway with no obstacles, no traffic, no bikers, no skateboarders, etc. And also a buddy to walk in front of you while you're walking backwards to tell you if you have some sort of impediment coming, to dodge obstacles so you don't trip over something. So it does require a few extra accommodations to walk backwards outside. So we would recommend that if you're going to practice walking backwards, that you do so on a treadmill. And you're going to want to start very slowly and use the handrails to maintain your balance. After you're comfortable with the mechanics, you can either increase the speed a little bit, or you can take your hands off the rails to make it a little more challenging. It's going to take some time to get the hang of it though, and so you're going to definitely want to start slowly. And you will notice it. After you've been doing it for a while, you're going to start feeling those muscles that you're not used to feeling, and it's probably going to hurt later if you've never really done it, but it's really going to strengthen those muscles that you need to walk backwards. Okay, so now I'm just going to briefly go over some of the exercises that are highlighted in this week's e-guide, which you will receive in the email, so be on the lookout for it. So I'm going to show you 3 exercises, one for cardio, one for strength, one for flexibility, and then the same basic exercises in a modified form in case you just want to do them differently or you're unable to get down on the floor. So the cardio exercise here is the mountain climber. That's good for your heart, and I'm not going to read all of these to you, so you can check out the e-guide when you get it. That's a good cardio exercise. The scissor kick is a good strength exercise. And again, you see that these two both require being on the ground, as well as the third one here. It's a good flexibility exercise, and these all require lying on a mat on the floor. If you'd rather not do that, or you're unable to do that, you can still get the same basic benefits from these exercises just by doing the modified versions. So the cardio exercise here would be the standing mountain climber instead, where you're standing up instead of lying down. A front kick where you're still on your feet, and it still gives you the same basic benefits as the scissor kick did. And then the modified figure 4 stretch, where you still get the flexibility benefits, but you're in a chair instead of on the mat on the floor. So these are just different ways to kind of get the same benefit. So some action planning for this coming week. What new twist will you try with a favorite dish? Which healthy cooking techniques do you already use, and which ones will you try? Have you tried walking backwards, or is it something that you can see yourself trying? If you have the use of a treadmill, I recommend just giving it a try to see how it works for you. And which one of the exercises that I just briefly went over will you try this week? It's always good to try new things and mix up your exercise regimen. And so those are just some examples of things that you can do. So I'm going to stop sharing here and just say, it's been fun so far going on this journey with you. I've tried to mix up my own exercise regimen along the way. I hope you guys are continuing with your goal setting and checking in with each other. And again, I encourage you to join our Facebook group if you haven't done so already, where we have a lot of tips and discussion about exercise and walking and healthy eating and so forth. So keep up the good work, everybody. You're on week 5, we're halfway there, we're on the home stretch. So again, as always, if you guys have any questions, please let us know in the comments. Thanks so much.